Hello, my name is Ira, and we're back with another Access University interview. I'm Airways, another special guest, which I will allow her to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Shalom. I am happy to be a guest today. I'm an artist based here in Washington State.
Yeah, also we was classmates at Pierce College.
Yes.
I would like to know, tell us what's your disability if you define it as one, and how do you learn about it?
Well, I always had an inkling that, something was up. And my husband for years had been telling me to go get a evaluation. And I was like, no, like it's not going to make a difference. But last year I decided to go and get an evaluation and I ticked all the boxes. I had ADHD. So that's when I was able to, you know, find ways of coping and even with medication. And yeah.
Like you didn't know growing up, it was difficult to understand what you was going through since you couldn't add a name on it. If that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yeah. So I think a big thing that plays into that is the fact that I was raised in Uganda in Africa, and such things are not recognized. Like neurodivergency is not recognized if you have autism or if you have ADHD. So I just grew up just wondering why some things were just so hard for me compared to other kids.
Yeah.
And I was always getting in trouble for being late, for not focusing, for being a troublemaker in class and not following instructions and staying on task. Because I didn't have that extra help, I had to create my own coping mechanism so that I could, do schoolwork, graduate, and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I feel that, definitely. What's the difference? Is it the difference in having AS disability or any functions between Africa and being in America? And also, would you ever want to go back and live in that?
Well, so the difference between having ADHD here and back home. First of all, back home, I didn't know. I didn't know what was happening. I was just I was battling. Okay, but as a child, I think like the way I'm seeing myself raising my daughter, and other kids being raised here in America, it's easier for them. It's by no means easy, but it's easier compared to back home because it's very strict. The academics at school. I went to really high achieving boarding schools, and it was so hard, and you get in so much trouble if your grades are below a certain level, and you have all these exams that determine your whole future. Like if you fail them, you might not go to college and you're doomed, And also at home, like the discipline most elders gave, well, like, listen, you have to be on task, listen, and you get in so much trouble. And yeah, it was really hard. But I'll say as an adult, yes, in America, it's a very prompt society. You have to make it on time to everything, and there's deadlines compared to back home. It's a little more time is a little more fluid for adults. It's easier in some ways back home, but also, at least in this day and age, 2024, people are more, some people are more open to the fact that people have disabilities. You get what I mean? Compared to back home.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll have more people giving you grace here than back home if you fall short. They'll just think you're just being incompetent 100%. But I'm not saying there are people here who don't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and would I go back? Actually, I want to go back and live there because it's just so it's sunny. It's it's nice. The food is fresh. Not that it's not fresh here, but it's fresher back there.
Would you say over there is getting better than how it was when you was a child?
Mm, no. No, like in terms of disability, not really. Mm-mm. they still have a ways to go. And I think for people, it's individual and parents. Like my mom in particular is not like the average African parent. She has always been very like she has always been very patient with all of her children, and which is why which is why even after I moved here, the way I carry myself and the way I'm fearless, I just enter in rooms and stuff, despite everything. That's all my mom. That's all my mom. She fostered that in me, and she didn't. It was actually the world after I left home that made me feel weird. But yeah, so for most people, it's just family to family basis, and many people who have disabilities just and I'm not just talking like the more invisible disabilities than like what I have. Even the people who have visible disabilities are even worse. Like it's like kind of they're thrown to the wayside, you know what I mean? Like there's no programs for them like they have here and
Yeah.
stuff like that, so they just have to figure it out somehow. Yeah, so it's a lot harder, so we have progress to make.
Yeah, definitely progress, and we have a long way to go. Even here in America, we have gotten a decent amount, but yeah, there's
Yeah.
still a lot. How did that play into like your faith with God?
It played a lot because there were points in my life where I used to ask God like, is like, am I okay? You get what I mean? Like, how come I just can't get certain things right, Kind of like you kind of beat yourself up, kind of like you're a defective person, if that makes
Yes.
sense. Yeah, and it made me battle with myself and even battle with my relationship with God. I wasn't at peace with myself. And in turn, I asked God, why am I like this? Why do I feel like this? Why do I have to struggle through everything? And it took years for me to come to a place where I was at peace with the way I am and with the way I function and accepting the fact that this is how God created me, you know?
I
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, me too. I feel like, especially in the Western, I guess everywhere in church, like we just paint the broad picture of like, oh, let me pray for you, I hope for healing, and we don't really understand the different struggles that people are going through, and like it's not talked about a lot
No.
in the church or even outside of the church. I think now in 2024, like we're starting to like recognize people with disabilities. They're starting to give the disability community the respect and the dignity that we didn't have back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, where would you say you're at with your faith in the Lord?
I think at this point in my life, it is because I went through a long, long period of uncertainty,
Yeah.
you know, and I feel like finally I'm in a place where I'm at peace. I recognize because there was a point where I thought I had to be perfect, especially being my parents are ministers, being raised in the church, and there was a lot to unpack there that I had to deal with. So thanks to the pandemic, not thanks, I mean a lot happened. But
Yeah,
during the pandemic I
definitely.
had time to sit
Yeah.
and think, and yeah, I had a lot to unpack with my relationship with God and make it more personal to me, not just what was told to me, you need to do this and you need to do that, and now that I think also just discovering myself and the way I function and the way I am, it made me closer to God because I was able to reconcile certain parts of myself, yeah, so I feel like I'm in a peaceful place right now with God, so
That's so
yeah.
awesome. And I love that you said personal. I think we miss that so much. Like we just follow the trend and like listen to like our pastors, and we never really form a personal
Yeah.
relationship with God. So I think that's awesome. And I think that's where, we do have that intimacy
Yeah.
with God is when we are with Him and struggling and coming. Because, yeah, it's like we don't act like the idea you have to be perfect is like man man's view of the Bible post on us. When you have that personal relationship, it's like you can wrestle with like, God, I don't get this. Like that's what the wrestle is. That's where like the doubt. Like God can handle. I believe that God's grace isn't this for it saves us so it can hold your doubts, it can hold your disappointment, your anger, everything. God made us with emotions, so like He knows, so we could come with Him with any emotions and wrestle with that. And I like that because that makes it more personal. And I'm the same way. The pandemic really, okay, this is my fate. And I believe in something because I grew up with people like, this is what Americans do. No, I have my own fate now. So like, yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yes.
How do you think God deals with disabilities? And I don't know if you know about disability theology. It's been books been coming out. We did a book study called My Body Is Not My Prayer Class. And it talks about a lot of things about one thing is like the prayer. It was like the idea of what does healing look like? Healing looks like different ways, which you know now, and how do you think he wants you to know about him truly?
In the past, because you read those verses in the Bible where people are healed from things.
Yes.
And that happens a lot in the church too today, where many things that people go through, disabilities and stuff, people think, we need to fast and pray and it'll go away, kind of
Yes.
thing, and God will save you. But the longer I've gone with my walk with God, the more I realize that we're all different. We're all created different. Like
Yes.
the world would be so boring if we're all the same person. Imagine that. Like that would be so boring. And the fact that God says, "Come as you are," you know, that clicked in my head because I was like, whether or not someone believes that people can be saved from being certain ways, at the end of the day, God still accepts you in whichever state you are in. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So this state that I'm in, it is what it is. Whether I manage my ADHD so well and I get on the best meds and I'm like, I become, I know, a Nobel Peace writer or some stuff.
Yeah.
And whether I'm still in this same place that I am in, God still accepts me the way that I am. And that's how I've reconciled that. And I think that's how God views all of us. We can do our self improvements on ourselves and stuff like that. And sometimes we decide that, this capitalistic world and stuff, I don't wanna fight with it. And God
Yeah.
still loves us the same,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's talk about what you do now and how maybe you are advocating for yourself now, or now that you have ADHD, like, how does knowing it now like helps you or empowers you now?
It allows me to give myself more grace in situations, you know. In the past, my first thought was self-criticism. What is wrong with you? Why you get what I mean? And now that I have a more clear picture, I'm able to give myself grace in situations where I quote unquote fall short. You get what I mean? According to
Yeah.
societal standards.
Yes.
And in turn, that affects my self esteem and the way I interact with the world. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I won't go into situations feeling small because of because I don't have this crazy narrative at the back of my head. You get like for instance
Yeah,
this
that's all.
morning when Ginger called me, she was like, "Are you on your way? Like, are you coming?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, I had a lot this morning." So in the past, that would have ruined my whole day. You get what I mean? Like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how did you not do everything on time and be there 10 at the dot? You get what I mean? But I was like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, I'm on my way. I'm going to get there soon. And I was able to collect myself together and be like, you know, I did my best this morning and I quickly headed here.
I'm glad that it's helping you. Yeah, to have those moments where you just realize, like, hey, okay, I don't have to overact. Like, I just breathe her and just deal with the situation. I think that's awesome. That's good to grow. And I feel the same as I learn more and more about my own disability. How it helps me to navigate, take that breathe,
Yeah.
the deep breath, and say, hey, it's not, it's not the end of the world. I just
Yeah,
need to
true.
take a break or have that time to regroup. How did your, I guess, it impacts your relationships, like with your husband or with your daughter or parents or friends? Like,
I am very grateful for the people I have in my life. I'll start with my husband. I've known him since college. I don't know, maybe that's why we ended up together very quickly after we became friends. He noticed patterns about me and he was able, like, for instance, I was in a bunch of clubs in college and I had a job at the college paper and I had classes and I would forget to eat food at lunchtime and he noticed that. It was like, so every lunchtime he would bring me food. He would be like, hey, you need to sit down, eat something before you don't want to pass out during the day. You get what I mean? So I think I strategically allowed people in my life who understand, and I also recognize the fact that there are some people who will not be okay with my ways of being, and you're not for everybody, and that's okay. And that is okay.
yes,
Like, just some people are not for you. And I think
like
my
that.
Nick created an environment for me where he made me feel safe. Like you can be yourself.
That's,
You can be yourself. And so when I became a mom, I was still given that grace even through motherhood and stuff. He was like, it's okay, you can get that later, take a break, stuff like that. And also I think my mom's the same way. My mom has always been very supportive and very accommodating. Like when I moved to this country and I was living with my cousins, she actually called them and she explained everything to them about me. She was like, Shalom, just be patient with her. Just be patient with her. So, yeah, so there are some relationships that didn't work for me with people, and they're the ones that I have right now. I'm grateful that they are in my life because they are all very understanding and loving. So, yeah.
oh, that's awesome. Big shout out to Nick. That's awesome. Yeah, we like that. Like that. So that's so important to like realize. Like yeah, like you were saying, we're not for everyone. We're not
True.
assigned to everyone, and that's awesome. And that also brings a lot of weight and pressure off of us.
Yes.
And I think that helps not try to please everybody because you know you're not meant you're not assigned to. There's certain people that's assigned to you, your life, and those people may be there for a season
Yeah.
or a reason or something, but we just have to be thankful and allow them to play a role in our life. Yeah, I was just your ASAD affect parenting or like how does your child as does she see anything different or is it just like so normal to her that she didn't.
So my daughter is a lot like me. So there's that. And it made, because in the past, when I was a kid, I didn't get this from my mom, but I got it from other relatives, from, teachers and stuff. Wait until you become a mom and get a child just like you. And I got a child just like me, and then I realized that literally you just have to be patient. Like y'all are not being patient with me. You know what I mean? So now that I have a daughter that's just like me, I am trying my best to create a home and an environment for her where she doesn't feel like something is wrong with her. I'm just very patient. I try my best. We,
Yeah.
as parents, we all have our times where,
Yes.
yeah, we reach the end of the rope. But I try my best to be very patient with her. And, sometimes she gets frustrated with herself. And I have to be like, it's okay. It's fine. Yeah, we can, because one of the symptoms of ADHD is like we get very impatient when we're doing things, when we're doing tasks, when we need, and she gets very, very frustrated with herself sometimes. And I have to tell her, it's okay, we can do it again, we can take a break, it's fine. And when I think back in the past, especially when I was at school and stuff, I wasn't given that patience and like reassurance. They were like, you better do it or you don't, or like, are you crazy? Are you stupid? Kind of thing. So I try, like, even her self affirmation, I want her to have positive affirmations about herself and about how she views herself. And I think it also extends to school. I've talked to the school and stuff like that about accommodations and stuff, and I always keep in touch with her teacher to make sure that everything is, the teacher gives me updates on how she's doing at school and, you know, things that are a bit hard for her at school. I'm not as authoritative as some of the people in my life were growing up with me, the way I'm raising her. Of course, there's discipline, but I'm
Yeah.
giving her a lot more grace.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
I hear that not only that you are advocating for her, you also kind of the early stages of how to give her the tools to advocate for herself.
Yes.
And I could hear that. I think that's such a key in what not only with people with disabilities or non-disabilities. I think instilling any child the skill that it's not the end of the world when I
Yeah.
messed up. It just means that it didn't work that way. Let me try a different way. So I think it's important that you are living that example out, and I'm sure as she grows up, she will see that more and more and how powerful and strong and determined her mom is. So I think that's awesome. So you are an artist, you
Yes.
say. Tell us more about being an artist and the journey becoming an artist. Did you always knew you was one?
Growing up, I've always been very, very creative. But where I grew up, certain things are not a thing, or at least not respected. Okay, so of course, like in my country. In Uganda, there is a lot of emphasis on academics. You get what I mean? Like, you
Yes,
better be a
yes.
doctor or a lawyer, or you're a failure. So, so when I moved here, when I came for college, I was supposed to, because I was really good at science in high school, and I took, they call it A level, advanced level. So I did science classes for my advanced level. Yeah, our high school is divided into, yeah. I was made to think that I had to be like in STEM or else I'm a failure. So I was gonna come and do med school actually. I was supposed to, and then uh, when I moved here, it was I was in college. I was doing okay in college, but I think being in this country opened my eyes to the fact that there are other things someone can do. Yeah, you don't have to do certain things, even if you don't want to. Like, I was seeing people like doing stuff. I was like, oh, look, that's an artist, that's a musician, that's a like, and they're fine, they're okay, they're happy. So I called my mom and I told her I wanted to change my major to art. And again, my mom is my mom. So, she was obviously she was supportive, but at first she was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm paying your tuition. I'm paying your tuition for you to paint pictures and stuff. Uh, yeah, but yeah, we talked about it, went back and forth, and she was like, you know what, if that's what you want to do, that's okay. I'll support you. So, and I'm very, very grateful that my mom was able to, create that for me and create that space for me to explore my creativity because always, she always pointed out how, since I was a child, how creative I was and how good I was at certain things. I'm grateful that my mom created that environment for me where I was able to explore my creativity because since I was a child, she always talked about how you're so good at this and you're so good at that, and she was always telling everyone, embarrassing me in front of all my relatives, like, look what Shalom made. She's so good at this. Yeah, so I think that was an easy transition for her because she had already seen the creativity I had. Yeah, so since college, I've been making stuff and creating stuff. And then later on, I ended up doing fashion design. I've also done photography, and now I'm painting, and yeah.
Right, yeah, speaking of that, we have two of your paintings right here.
Yes.
Tell us about each of these paintings.
So these paintings, I use. So I'll first say what exactly I use. I use acrylic paint and fabric. So this is fabric. Yeah. So the whole canvas is covered in fabric, and then I paint on top of it, and with the paint, and yeah, that's how most of my paintings are. I got serious about painting well, not serious. I started trying to, in 2021. Yeah. So, but obviously, I went into my hyperfixation the whole year, since the summer of 21. And by the time January 22 rolled by, I could paint pretty decent. I was like, oh, look at that.
Like, where can people find
Oh.
your painting or follow you?
You can find me on social media. The name is on the screen. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have any else you want to say?
Just words of encouragement. As people, especially young people in this world, we need to learn to. Our walk with Christ will help us a lot in the way we view ourselves and in the way we interact with the world, and to help us having that anchor helps us to not only give ourselves grace but also know that there's someone who is looking out for us out there. Because much as I have a good support system for myself right now, I can recognize the fact that many people don't, you know, and until that support system comes, you have God, you have Christ who is there right next to you. We need to recognize how important Christ is in our life. And, if you have disabilities, I recognize the fact that I have a lot of support from my friends and family and from my husband, but many people with disabilities might not have that. And until that support comes, eventually just have Christ as your anchor and have God as that support for you and as that comfort for you. And in the long run, you'll realize that you're fine, you're safe, you're okay. God's got you. It's fine. And also just unapologetically be yourself. It's okay. The world tells us to be a certain way. Just be yourself. In the long run, you'll look back when you're 50 or whatever, you'll be like, I'm glad I did that. I lived life for myself. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for coming and interviewing with us, and we just hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, we out.